G'day and welcome to Scrounger's Workshop. This is a slideshow because I wasn't making YouTube videos when I did most of the work on this. This is an Atlas mandrel press. It's a 1.5 and it's rated at 3 tons. It's a ratcheting arbor press, but as you can see there was no handle on it. But this arbor press found me rather than I found it. Been advertised for several weeks on a local internet site. It turned out to be only about 2 suburbs away from where I live. So I kept seeing this thing for sale. So I finally realised how big it was. I went round and saw the guy, and he didn't know how it worked. He couldn't work out how you could press with that wheel. I explained to him that the handle was missing. Anyway, I ended up bringing it home for well under $100. And it was a good buy, I thought, at the time. So the thing with this arbor press is that Dake bought the rights to the Atlas arbor presses back in 1945. They kept the designs the same and really haven't changed very much over the years. But that makes this arbor press over 75 years old. Curious to find out how it ended up in Australia, but I guess I'll never know. So I spent 2 years looking for a handle on the internet all over the world. I couldn't find one. I wrote to Dake and they were happy to supply me one. $250 US plus $400 US postage plus our shitty exchange rate made it over $1,000 landed here. I just couldn't afford that. So the only other solution I come up with is make my own handle. So now I spent time looking at original Atlas presses, sketches, designs, everything I could find on the internet to show me what the handles look like and what the dimensions were. So I looked at original pictures, and then I started looking and found a lot of sketches, design drawings, and I could extrapolate out the size of the handle by comparing the design drawings against my press. So once I had all my dimensions, then it came down to what am I going to make the thing out of? I can't work with cast iron, I can't cast it. There were places that could, but it was going to be expensive. So in the end, I just decided I'd make it out of aluminium, but just make it heavier. Aluminium's pretty damn strong. So my next job was to make the pattern. And that's what you can see here. You can see the join line of the two halves. Probably took me about a week to make, but it came out pretty good. So now it's time to get into my aluminium. I got stuck into my scrap pile, but I was trying to work out what sort of aluminium would cast best. Until I read somebody had written the best type of aluminium to use for casting is scrap that's already been cast. It has all the bits and pieces you need in it for a good casting. So these are the ingots I got out of my melt, and I'm pretty happy with them. They all seem to have a good sheen and they're all solid, they're all good, and it cast really well. So now it was into making the mould and pouring the aluminium. So this is just after I've opened the mould. The black bits are just burnt sand. I was really surprised at how well it came out. I was quite excited. This is the first major casting I've ever done, and the results came out very well. After I've tipped it out of the mould, and now I'm getting all the sand off it, and there's the first good look at it. I was pretty happy with it. Everything I learned about casting, I learned off YouTube, and I've got to say, yep, I thought they taught me pretty well. So the block that's on the back of the handle acts as a counterweight in the cast iron versions. Obviously aluminium wasn't going to do that. So I drilled out the counterweight, filled it with molten lead, and I was just lucky I got the balance spot on. Very happy with it. The last 2 letters in the name Atlas were very poorly cast and I had to fix it. So using plasticine, I picked an A and an S out of other parts of the press, put them together, formed a plaster mould, which then allowed me to form a sand mould. Once I'd made up the new letters, I ground off the bad A and S and replaced them with my homemade A and S. And again, I was pretty happy. It's not perfect, but I think it came out all right. So now it's time for me to turn my attention to the actual ratcheting pawl. I found this picture of a Dake one, which made it very easy to understand how it works. Somebody else was also looking to get one, and another person provided this sketch of all the dimensions and the original tracing around it. That made it so much easier for me to make one. Turned out to be quite simple in the end. And so here's my version. I was very lucky, it worked perfectly first time. Didn't need any adjustments to it. There's no springs, it's just the counterweight holding it in place. What's the advantage in a ratcheting arbor press over a standard arbor press? Well, as you can see in this picture, the handle is shown in the optimum position, but you can't always get that shown by the red arrow. It can end up in quite a bad position, which means you need to pack out your workpiece or make some kind of adjustments. And the price difference between a ratcheting arbor press and a standard arbor press with a quality brand like Dake is looking around $800 for a standard press and around $1,200 for a ratcheting arbor press. That's a fair bit extra for the convenience of having that ratcheting mechanism. So how did mine turn out in the end? Well, I've got to say I'm pretty proud of it. I think it'll be a family heirloom. I certainly won't be parting with it anytime soon. I have a 20-ton hydraulic press, but this will see a lot of work, very good for repetitive stuff, and I just like it. I just think they're really cool, very well made. What else can you say? I just love it. So this is how the ratcheting mechanism works, and as you can see, the handle always comes up to exactly the right position for when you really want to lean on it and get your full 3 tons out of it. As you can see, I've made up these nice badges to put on there, but really, truth be told, they're nothing more than homemade fridge magnets, but they'll do till I can get a proper replacement. And here's a picture of the current Dake 3-ton ratcheting arbor press. Certainly haven't changed much in 75 years, have they? So the final piece in finishing my arbor press is to make the press plate, or daisy wheel. And these rotate on a pin at the bottom and just make it right for pressing bearings or whatever. And again, thanks to the internet, I have all the dimensions I need. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. It took me a long time. Like I said, I started 2 years ago, but I think the end result's worth it. I'm really happy with it. Thanks for watching, and cheers.